Kazuma was an ugly, poor, neglected child who was abused by his father at a young age for being born without any fire magic, and was even outcasted by his mother from their family for losing against a girl. However, he secretly made a contract with the Spirit King of the Wind to gain God's energy, and sacrificed his life to one day gain revenge and kill his own father. In an empty shrine in the middle of a forest, the girl he lost to as a kid summoned her flaming sword in Reiha and blocked the web attacks from a spider demon hidden inside the shrine. However, the spider used his sticky strings to grab Ayano's skirt, but she was able to break free. And after dodging back, she used the spirits of fire to engulf Reiha in heavenly flames, and sent a raging fireball towards the spider to kill it in an instant. Her friends Yukari and Nanes thanked her for defeating the monster and asked if she wanted to go to a karaoke. But a mysterious wind blew that lifted all their plot coverage, and Ayano realized that her disgusting cousin must have returned. At the same time, Kazuma arrived at a mansion for a job, and after he was led inside by a maid, he reunited with a branch family member of the Kannagi clan named Shinji. Surprised by his appearance, Shinji taunted Kazuma for becoming an exorcist, but he ignored his blonde ass, and the client learned that Kazuma was a failure of the Kannagi clan. However, he hadn't come back to join his family, and the client didn't care who he used to be as long as he did his job, but warned him not to destroy anything in the room, as the items were worth more than his worthless ass. As Shinji was about to leave, Kazuma called him a disgusting blondie, and as they were about to fight each other, the spirit appeared, and Shinji tried to burn it. However, since it wasn't evil, the spirit wasn't burned by the fire, and after knocking Shinji away, it set the whole mansion on fire. The client begged Kazuma to save him, and even offered to give his Schlongabunga a tongue twist, but Kazuma wasn't gay, and agreed to save him for 100 times the payment. Approaching the spirit, he collected wind spirits in his body to blow away all the fire in the mansion, and used wind slashes to cut the spirit into little pieces. Afterward, he kicked Shinji, and the client asked him not to humiliate the body of a dead person. But he knew that Kazuma wasn't dead, as the Kannagi family were fire magic users who controlled fire at will, and even a member of a branch family wouldn't die of fire because of the protection of the fire spirits. That night, after spending time with her friends, Ayano rushed back home because she was getting late, and was startled by Kazuma's brother named Ren, who told her that his edgelord brother had returned to Japan. However, Ayano didn't remember him, but when Ren reminded her that she fought him in the ceremony of inheritance to get the Enreiha, she remembered defeating him with a single blast of her magic, and called him a weakling. Ren started to cry because of her mean comments, and in the family room, the current head of the Kannagi family, Jugo, and Kazuma's father Genma heard Shinji's report about him. When Ayano and Ren arrived there, she learned that Kazuma was her second cousin who had changed his name, and couldn't fathom how the son of the main family was a wind magic user. If he wasn't born in the Kannagi family, Kazuma wouldn't have anything to be ashamed of, but since the noble Kannagi family were blessed by the fire spirits, there was no place for a wind magic user among them, and Genma had convinced himself that he had only one son now. However, Jugo thought that it was for the best that Kazuma had left the family, as he had become a successful wind magic user, but Ren was still sad that his brother wouldn't come back to his family. Late at night as Ayano was sleeping, a mysterious wind magic user killed 2 members of the Kannagi family before slicing Shinji in half. Dreaming about the time when Ayano bested him in battle, and his father called him a talentless disgrace, Kazuma woke up and detected something ominous around the city. The following morning, the head of the Fuga clan Hayao informed Jugo that the bodies were slashed by wind blades, but it wasn't an attack that his wind magic clan could use. Genma felt disgusted that someone from the Kannagi was defeated by the pathetic wind family, and apologized to Hayao for being inconsiderate. But the Fuga clan served the Kannagi for generations, and couldn't dare to say anything in return. Shinji's brother was convinced that Kazuma had killed him, and Ayano wanted her father to do something about it. But Jugo reminded her that they didn't have any concrete evidence to prove it, and ordered her to remain on standby. That night as Kazuma was walking around the city, he detected a wind magic user tailing him, and once Hayao informed the leaders about his location, Jugo thought that they should invite him to meet with them. But Genma was ready to use force if he wasn't interested in talking. They sent Shingo and Takyu to deal with him, but Ayano secretly tagged along with them, and requested the two not to tell Jugo about it. When they reached Kazuma's location, they ran towards him, and Ayano got trapped in a wind prison, so the boys continued forward without her. Takaya blamed him for killing his brother, and Shingo informed Kazuma that 3 Kannagi mages were killed by a wind magic user. Meanwhile, Ayano summoned in Reiha and shot fireballs at the wind prison to break free of it, while at the same time, Kazuma told the boys that he didn't kill their comrades, since he wasn't a part of the Kannagi family anymore. He wanted Genma to come talk to him instead, and used a wind slash to reveal the Fuga clan member that was tailing him. With no option left, Shingo and Takaya got ready to fight him. But before they could even attack, Kazuma used a wind burst to explode them, and they hugged the ground. However, at that instant, the mysterious wind magic user destroyed the building behind them with a wind slash, and Shingo and Takaya were crushed underneath it. Their killer could command the spirits of the wind. But before Kazuma could chase him, Ayano arrived at the scene, and thinking that he killed her comrades, she rushed toward him with Reiha. After dodging her attacks, Kazuma told her that it was a misunderstanding, and that he didn't kill them. But she kept throwing fireballs at him, and jumped to attack him in close range. However, Kazuma knocked Reiha away from her hands, but she teleported it back, and Kazuma used the power of the spirit winds to slice her attack in half. Once again, he tried to make her understand that he didn't kill her friends, but he refused to believe him, so Kazuma revealed that another wind magic user killed them before flying away in the sky, and Ayano screamed at him to come back. The following day, she went to a restaurant with her friends, and complained to them that Jugo had grounded her for fighting with a guy. Hearing that, they thought that she must be talking about her boyfriend. But after seeing her weird tongue game, they realized that it wasn't the case. Meanwhile, Jugo overheard someone talking about Kazuma killing 2 more of their clan members, but Genma knew his worthless son wasn't stupid enough to allow Ayano to see his face if he had killed Shingo and Takaya. However, Jugo understood how everyone was feeling, as it was easy for them to think that it was Kazuma's revenge since his actions were suspicious to begin with, and asked Genma why he sent him away. Since he was a member of the Kannagi family, Genma stuck to his principles and sent Kazuma away in order for him to find his own way of life, as he couldn't stay in the Kannagi family with wind magic. But he wanted to be the one to bring him back, and as Kazuma was chilling in a resort, Genma called him and informed him that he was coming to see him. In the evening, as Kazuma was watching the sunset, he remembered the time when his father reprimanded him for losing to a 12-year-old, and thought of him as a pathetic, talentless failure who was unfit to be an heir of the Kannagi clan. There was no need for someone in his family who couldn't use fire magic, and in a weird twist of fate, Genma ordered him to buy milk and never come back. Kazuma begged for forgiveness in every way he could, but he threw his useless, disgusting ass and left him to cry in his loneliness. Since that time, Kazuma always wanted to surpass his father, who controlled every aspect of his life and was eager to fight him. At the same time, Hayao informed Jugo that the identity of Shingo and Takaya's killer was still unknown, and requested more time, saying that the entire Fuga clan was immobilized to investigate the matter. As the night came, Genma approached Kazumi, asking him to turn himself in, but Kazumi ignored him and asked if that was the first thing he wanted to say to his son that he hadn't seen in 4 years. He wanted to fight his father and told him that he wasn't the weakling that he once knew, but Genma thought that a good-for-nothing like him couldn't beat him after studying wind magic for only 4 years. Angry at his cockiness, Kazuma shot wind slashes towards him, but they couldn't pierce his shield, so Kazuma tried to attack from multiple angles, but that attempt failed as well. Since he didn't have time to play games, Genma tried to fry his worthless ass by overwhelming him with fire bursts, and covered him in a huge ball of fire, but Kazuma used a wind barrier to protect himself. Thinking that he held back too much, Genma borrowed power from the fire spirits to launch his ultimate attack, but Kazuma exploded it on the spot by controlling the oxygen to cause combustion. However, such party tricks wouldn't work on a level 69 Riz Lord Daddy, and for the last time, he offered Kazuma to turn himself in. When he denied it, Kazuma decided to show the difference between their power by enveloping himself in Azure God's blue hellfire. Kazuma knew about it, and Genma thought that no party trick of his would now work against him. But Kazuma shrouded himself in spirits of the wind, and since wind spirits gather faster than fire spirits, he was able to launch his attack first, and finally got rid of his daddy issues by defeating his father. As he hugged the ground, Kazuma laughed seeing the sorry-ass old man lying in front of him, and wondered what he was supposed to do now. Genma was taken to a hospital, and as Kazuma was going to his hotel, he sensed a Kannagi fire user, and it turned out to be his brother Ren, but he didn't realize it at first. However, once he knew that it was his brother, he was surprised to see how big he had gotten, and learned that Hayao told him about his location. Ren wanted to convince him to come back, but Kazuma just ignored him and asked Ren to go inside the hotel with him, telling him that he had sent the old man to the hospital after beating his ass. At the same time, Ayano came out of the shower, and she saw a message from Ren telling her about Kazuma's location. In the hotel, Ren asked Kazuma if he was a contractor and had entered a contract with the Spirit King to receive the blessing of the spirits. The Kanagi family did the same when their first leader entered an agreement with the Spirit King of Fire. But Ren heard a rumor online about a legendary contractor who was Japanese and wanted to know if it was Kazuma, as there was no way he would have defeated Genma without a contractor's power. Instead of answering directly, Kazuma dodged the question, and when Ren asked if he had really killed the Kanagi mages, he declined. So Ren wanted him to clear his name, as the entire Kanagi family would turn on him otherwise. But Kazuma knew that no one except Jugo would understand his situation, and he had no intention of yielding to the Kanagi family. However, he knew that it was just his stupid pride, but it wouldn't matter anymore soon, as the Kanagi family wouldn't be able to handle the being that killed their mages. Ren was hurt by his comments, as he still considered Kazuma a part of his family, but he reminded him that their family had abandoned him long ago, and he had no intention of helping them out. Hearing this, Ren started crying, as he had come there to convince Kazuma, but he failed in that. Unable to see his little brother cry, Kazuma threw a towel towards him so he could wipe his face, and forced him to get to bed in time. As Ayano was approaching his hotel, Kazuma happily saw his little brother sleeping, but when he detected something ominous, he told Ren that something had sliced the hotel in half and grabbed him to jump out of the building. At that instant, the upper half of the hotel came crashing down right on Ayano, and Ren asked Kazuma if it was the work of another wind magic user that he was talking about. Suddenly, he sensed someone approaching, so he ordered Ren to get back and jump to dodge Ryuya's attack. Angry that Ren was mixed up in all that chaos, Kazuma threw wind slashes at him, but they had no effect, and Ren was abducted in the meantime. However, he couldn't go to rescue him because of Ryuya, who also went away after Ren got kidnapped, and as he flew in the air to rescue him, Ayano melted the debris to get out of the rubble. In the aftermath of the destruction of the hotel, Officer Kirika and Izumi arrived at the scene, and when a police officer tried to stop them, his superior stopped him. The hot ladies were summoned whenever an incident involved magic, and looking at the destruction, they realized that the hotel was destroyed by wind magic, and Kirika told Izumi that a god-level wind magic user had recently come to Japan. At the same time, Kazuma decided to visit Jugo's state, and seeing it, he remembered the time when his mother gave him her debit card, and went away without looking at his face for one last time. When Kazuma entered the state, Jugo's lackeys surrounded him, and thinking that he had come to eliminate their leader, they all fired flames at him at once. But Kazuma effortlessly blocked it with his wind, and yeeted their asses away. As one of them was about to get up, Jugo stopped them and greeted Kazuma. He congratulated him for winning the fight against his father, and laughed when Kazuma said that he kicked his old ass. After learning that Ren was kidnapped by a wind magic user, Jugo invited Kazuma into his state, as he had some information about the kidnappers. As they walked together, Kazuma had a sense of nostalgia seeing Jugo's home, and at the same time, Ayano saw the guards beaten to a pulp and learned that Kazuma was in the state with her father. Meanwhile, Kazuma pointed out the wind magic user that he fought, and just like what Jugo thought, it was Hayao's son Ryuya. At that instant, Ayano barged in with Enreha on fire, and as she was about to attack Kazuma, Jugo stopped her dumb ass and scolded her for treating a guest like that. However, she still blamed him for killing her clan members, and when Kazuma mentioned that it wasn't him, Jugo told his dumb daughter that he was telling the truth and revealed that their enemy was the Fuga clan. Since their estate was empty since the morning, all of its members were involved in the revolt, but Ayano still blamed Kazuma instead of them, so Jugo asked why he chose to spare her. She thought that it was because she was too powerful for him to beat, but Kazuma had defeated Genma, who was the top magic user of the Kanagi clan, so he could have whooped her ass without even breaking a sweat if he wanted to. The Fuga clan used Kazuma as a decoy, and took the opportunity to kidnap Ren because he was a member of the head family. Before serving the Kanagi clan, the Fuga clan used to be a criminal organization with enormous power, and the Kanagi clan barely managed to defeat them by sealing their source of power. They served the insanely powerful demon Master of Wind, and wanted to revive it by sacrificing Ren, so Hayao placed his lifeless body on the stone tablet in front of the demon's shrine. Before kidnapping him, they used the evil spirits lurking around the demon and poured them into Ryuya to give him a fraction of the demon's true power. But after the seal would be fully released, they would get all of the demon's powers. 300 years ago, the Kannagi family sealed away the demon named Jehu into the blade fire crystal of Samadhi, and anyone who touched that seal was burned alive. However, the members of the head of the Kannagi family were sole exceptions, as they originally created the seal. So the incomplete soul of that demon that was inside Ryuya went inside Ren to control his body and release the seal. If the seal were to be fully released, the Fuga clan would be able to manipulate the evil spirits of the demon. However, to do that, the demon would first devour Ren's soul completely until not a single fragment would be left. And hearing all that, Ayano vowed to punish all those ungrateful f***s of the Fuga clan herself. But Kazuma didn't blame the Fuga clan for revolting against the Kannagi, as they were used as tools for the last 300 years, and Kazuma understood them, since he received the same treatment. By releasing the demon, they wanted to conduct their revenge on the Kannagi clan, and the ones who pushed them to that extent were the Kannagi themselves. Ayano didn't agree with that, but Jugo knew that Kazuma was right, and even tried to correct the mistakes of his clan when he became its leader, but he was too late. To rescue Ren, Ayano was ready to go by herself even when she didn't have enough power, and asked Jugo to tell her the location of the seal. But Kazuma stopped Ayano and offered to help her defeat Ryuya with her fire magic, as his wind magic didn't work against him. However, he wouldn't do it for free, and when Ayano complained, he reminded her that he wasn't a part of the family anymore, and Jugo happily agreed to pay him. At the same time, the entire Fuga clan had gathered at the seal's location, and Hayao got excited, as the time to pay the Kannagi family had finally come. Meanwhile, Kazuma and Ayano traveled in a car toward the seal's location, and as she complained about his harsh driving, she thought about the conversation she had with her father about why Kazuma took the money. Since he wasn't a part of the family, helping Ren would mean that he was helping his former clan, so he decided to ask for payment for it, so it wouldn't seem that he was doing it for his brother. As they continued traveling in the car, Kazuma sensed an attack approaching, so he burst open the door on Ayano's side and jumped from the car moments before it got destroyed by Ryuya. Kazuma was pissed at Ryuya for abducting his brother, and when Ayano mentioned that she didn't sense his presence, Kazuma revealed that a fire magic user could never find a high-level wind practitioner. Summoning Enreya and enveloping it on fire, Ayano rushed towards Ryuya with a fire slash, and when he nullified her attack, she moved in to strike him. But Ryuya blocked her attack with his bare hand and punched Ayano to push her away before counter-attacking her. Struggling to keep up against him, Ayano requested Kazuma for backup, but he never planned to assist her in the first place, and went to rescue Ren. At the same time, Hayao used Ren's hypnotized body to undo the seal of Samadhi, so the demon Jehu could eat his body to return to the world once again. But before he was devoured, Kazuma stopped the demon while eating away the Fuga clan members at the same time, and rescued Ren at the last second. Using his wind magic, he cured his little dumbass brother, who acted like a Disney princess waiting for his Prince Charming to rescue him. When Hayao got up, he asked Kazuma why he got in their way, as he was oppressed and humiliated by the Kannagi just like the Fuga clan, but he could never turn his back on Ren. However, he offered to work for them if they would pay him more than 100 million yen, and Ren got sad to hear that Kazuma came to rescue him for money, but he was just killing two birds with one stone. Angry at his greedy ass, the Fuga clan attacked Kazuma in unison, and as he blocked with a wind shield, Ryuya came back and Kazuma realized that Ayano was defeated. With a part of his soul inside Ryuya, Jehu was able to break from Kazuma's wind prison, and managed to possess his body to finally reincarnate into the world. Hayao looked at him with awe, and wanted him to blow up the Kannagi brats in front of him, but he attacked the Fuga clan members instead, and flew away towards the Kannagi main house. Ren was surprised that Jehu had attacked the people who were on their side, but Kazuma knew that he must have gotten some screws loose in his brain after being locked away for so long, and had only hatred for the Kannagi clan inside of him. However, he was only going after him just so he could get his payment from Jugo, and didn't give a shit about what would happen to the Kannagi clan. But he went to rescue Ayano first, and struggled to wake her up, as her whole body was covered in wounds, and evil spirits had entered her body. She was dying, and the only way she could be saved was with a rare elixir that Kazuma possessed. But he wondered if he had to do that, as he wouldn't be able to get that elixir again, and Ren could just become the next Enreya user if she died. However, when Ren burst into flames in sheer anger and ordered him to hand over the elixir, Kazuma decided to give it to Ayano himself. But that disgusting runt used it as an opportunity to feel the touch of a woman's lips for the first time in his life. Ayano was pissed at him and called him a jerk, but when Ren hugged him and revealed that he had saved her life with the rarest of rare alchemist's elixir, she thanked Kazuma for saving his life. However, he wanted another 100 million yen for wasting the elixir on her worthless ass, and mocked her for acting as Ryuya's personal punching bag. He never realized that Ayano was that bad, and pissed by his constant yapping, she summoned Enreha, but Kazuma grabbed her arm to stop her. Afterward, he grabbed them both to fly toward Jehu, and they saw that ghostly spirits that were lingering in the ground had woken up because of his aura. Ayano wondered if they could really win against a monster demon like that, but she was ready to sacrifice her life, so Kazuma told her to stay alive no matter what, as she could always start over as long as she lived to have another chance. When they saw spirits on the ground, Ren dropped to take care of them, and while the other two flew forward, he summoned the Kanaga's fire to return the spirits into darkness. Meanwhile, Kazuma stopped Jehu with a wind slash, and once he stopped flying, Ayano rushed at him while Kazuma backed her up with his wind magic. She slashed Jehu with all her might, but when her attack didn't work, Kazuma told her to focus, and she almost got her back destroyed by him. Kazuma wanted her to just focus on cutting Jehu down, and created a wind tornado to form a path for her to approach the demon. As she slashed at Jehu, he gathered the powers of the wind spirits to blast the demon out of existence, and Ren, who was battling the evil spirits, detected a god-level wind burst. Seeing that the demon's back was exposed, Ayano rushed at him, but Jehu stopped her attack at the last instance. Since his last attack didn't work, Kazuma was left with the only option of using God's secret wind power and asked Ayano to buy him some time. However, she struggled to even stand on her feet against the demon. But at that instant, Kazuma summoned the divine gates of the wind god, and asked him to entrust him with all the winds in the name of their contract. As Ayano continued fighting Jehu, her sword got knocked away, and she lost her will to continue fighting. But when she remembered Kazuma telling her that failure didn't matter as long as she got up again, she threw Crimson Flame at Jehu to burn him, and with a flurry of slashes, she managed to cut off his arm. As the demon was screaming in pain, she enveloped Jehu with the Crimson Flame to burn him, but it was still alive. However, Kazuma had finished gathering up the power, and with his eyes clear as the azure sky, he summoned heavenly hurricanes and wind tornadoes. With the demon being crushed by the winds from all sides, Kazuma allowed Ayano to deliver the finish blow, and she used the Crimson Enreha to pierce Jehu's neck. With the demon finally dead, the evil spirits around Ren had gone away, and Kazuma collapsed to the ground, as his body was at its limit. However, Ayano was still pissed at him because he had prepared his attack long ago, and was just enjoying her fight with the demon. But he told her that she would have never been able to overcome her weakness had he jumped in to save her, and instructed her to remember that feeling for the rest of her life. She was blushing because of her comments, but Kazuma told her to get up from his body, as something else would get up if she didn't. Sometime later, when Kirika came to see the aftermath of the battle, she realized that the wind magic user was Kazuma, while at the same time, he visited his father and told him to take care of his old ass before going away. Some days later, a meeting between the officials of the Kanagi clan was held in Jugo's place, and Ayano was feeling anxious since Kazuma hadn't arrived. However, he came soon enough and apologized to Jugo for being late, but told him that it was fine, as he begged him to come in the first place. Ren took the opportunity to get all cuddly with him and kept pressing him to eat something, but he told him to shut the fuck up. As Ayano was consoling him, Misao bowed to Kazuma and revealed that she would be attending to all his needs during his visit. So being the degenerate he was, he asked her to attend him in bed and was about to develop plot until Ayano intervened. She didn't want Misao to ruin her life for a jerk like Kazuma, but she knew that Kazuma had saved their clan and took revenge for her brother, so she didn't mind doing anything for him. However, Kazuma was half responsible for Taiki getting killed, as he had rendered him defenseless beforehand, and Ryuya just finished him off while he was unable to move, but Taiki still wouldn't have survived even if he was at his best. So Kazuma asked Misao to use whatever she was hiding in her sleeves, and she rushed to stab him with a knife. However, she couldn't pierce his wind barrier, and Jugo asked Kazuma to punish her, threatening to punish her himself if he didn't. Even her father Masayuki wanted Misao to get punished, but Kazuma couldn't see why they had to punish her since he wasn't harmed. But Jugo couldn't just let that slide and confine Misao to her home for the time being. When she asked why Taiki had to die, Kazuma told her that it was because he was weak, and Ayano asked him if he had forgotten what it meant to be weak. but he ignored her and went away. Later, while walking around with her friends, Ayano was pissed because she kicked a man in his plot, and Yukari realized that she was troubled because of Kazuma. However, she denied it in anger, and Kazuma told her that she was unnecessarily hyper as usual. He was with Kirika, and when Ayano saw that he just came out of a love hotel, her mind went blank, and Kirika rubbed her cushioning with Kazuma to piss her off even more. As they went away, Ayano angrily looked at them, and her friends realized that she was in love with Kazuma even though she didn't like guys like him. However, she denied it all once again, as she refused to accept her feelings, and made an excuse to get away from her friends. As they continued talking about her, Ayano looked around the city to find Kazuma wondering why he was with a big plotted woman. But when she realized what they were doing at the Love Hotel, she decided to call Ren and asked him to find his brother with her. After looking around everywhere for a while, Ren got exhausted and told Ayano that fire magic users were never good at finding people. But at that instant, they found him waiting for someone and saw Misao approaching him. When they left the hotel and walked around the city, Ayano made Ren follow the two until they reached the area of the Love Hotels. They eventually went into one of them, and seeing what Ayano was doing to a pole in anger, Ren wondered what she would do to Kazuma's pole. Imagining Misao taking the meat that she had her eyes on, Ayano burst into flames in anger. But at that instant, a sniper shot at Kazuma, and when he was forced against a wall, a group of mercenaries rained bullets at him with machine guns before throwing grenades to finish him off. When Ayano and Ren arrived there, Misao offered to let them have his body, but they knew that Kazuma would never be killed by an ambush like that. He created a wind tornado to blow away all the mercenaries, and when Misao tried to notify the sniper, Kazuma revealed that he had already taken care of him. He told Misao that she didn't have enough firepower to defeat him with her magic or with the mercenaries, and Ayano commanded Misao to come with her, but she threw her purse at her and ran away. While they chased her, Kazuma picked up her purse, and the two followed her to a nearby rooftop. Misao didn't think that she had done anything to be pursued by her, but she had hired people to kill Kazuma in her stead, and Ayano couldn't just let that slide. When Misao created a fireball, she summoned in Reiha, and they got ready to square off with each other. But Kazuma had arrived to return Misao's purse, and told Ayano that she had nothing to do with what Misao did. Even if she would try to attack him again, Kazuma didn't care because she was too weak to do anything. And getting angry at his comments, she tried to explode him into flames. But his wind was impenetrable, and no matter how many times she attacked him, Kazuma didn't even budge, and her flame was eventually blown away by the rain. Dropping to her knees in despair, she started crying out loud, and Kazuma tried to cover her with his jacket. But she pushed it away, and told Kazuma that she would make him pay for killing her brother. Telling her to give her best, Kazuma went away, and while the two followed him, Misao remained at the rooftop. However, Michael approached her there and offered to give her the power to take her revenge on Kazuma. She looked at him with hope in her eyes. Some days later in a subway station, a slime monster ate a woman alive, and continued to chase other people to devour them. The monster was Misao, who was consuming the life source of the people to strengthen herself, and Michael continued to make her believe that there was nothing wrong with what she was doing. One day, Ayano went to a hotel to ask for Kazuma's whereabouts with her friends, who decided to tag along with her because it was going to be her first time alone with a guy, but she revealed that Jugo had sent her to talk business with him. However, the girls thought that everything begins at business, and when Ayano entered Kazuma's suite, he asked her if she had come to ride on his roller coaster, but she threw the envelope at his face and told him that a monster was eating teenagers around the city. The total number of the people who were killed was over 100, so Jugo wanted Kazuma to investigate it, as he didn't have the Fuga clan anymore, and instructed Ayano to work together with him on the case. Looking at the evidence photos, Kazuma realized that the monsters sucked the energy out of its victims, and remembering the attention he gave Misao, Ayano hoped he would suck her energy one day too. However, he remained focused on completing the job, but he didn't need Ayano's help, as she would be too much of a burden to take along, so she called him an idiot and left the hotel in anger before kicking a guy in his face. Her friends wondered if she had just been dumped, and Kazuma secretly spied on them from afar, revealing that he was using her as bait. Meanwhile, the atmosphere had suddenly changed, and when the monster appeared in front of the girls, they ran into an alleyway to escape it. But when they got surrounded from all sides, Ayano summoned in Reiha, and slashing the monster ahead of her, she rushed back to protect her friends, but they were eventually cornered by the slime. At that instant, Kazuma had detected their location, and helped Ayano to burn the slime monster to ashes. The atmosphere turned to normal with its defeat, so Ayano thanked him for saving her, and got pissed when she learned that Kazuma was using her as bait. When he left to find Misao, she followed him, and Kazuma reached a park where she was casually sitting on a bench. He wanted to know why she would go to such an extent to defeat him, but she was ready to defeat him at all costs no matter what she had to do to achieve that, and planned to suck the life energy of thousands of humans until she got strong enough to defeat it. When Ayano arrived there, she saw all the evil ghost spirits around her, and wanted to punish her for killing innocent people. She summoned Enreya to defeat her, so Kazuma tried to stop Ayano, but she forced him back with her flames, and using their argument as a distraction, Misao escaped before she got attacked. Ayano was angry at Kazuma for letting her get away, and warned him not to interfere again, but he challenged her to stop him if she had the power to do so, and dispelled her flames before fading into the wind. Meanwhile, Michael had convinced Misao that he was an angel sent by the god to grant her wishes, and made her submerge herself in the demonic slime, but she was startled by the cries of help from the souls it had devoured. However, Michael convinced her that she was doing nothing wrong and everything was legitimate to make her wish come true, so she allowed the slime to completely merge with her, and Michael was surprised that the blood of the Kannagi was strong enough to tame the slime. At the same time, Jugo had ordered Masayuki's family to handle Misao since she was a part of them, and hearing him say that she wasn't his daughter anymore made Ayano wonder what kind of father he was. On top of the Yugami family, Jugo had also requested help from someone else, and when Masayuki asked if he had stopped Kazuma from approaching Misao, he revealed that Kazuma was no longer a part of the case, but he would still do what he wanted. That night, Masayuki met with Kirika, who informed him that Misao was inside a church, and he took his clan members there. When Ayano and Ren arrived, she introduced herself to them as the chief of the special police department, so Ayano asked her if she was trying to recruit Kazuma that day. She knew Kazuma for a long time, but she refused to tell Ayano anything about her meeting with him, whether it was personal or private. At the same time, Masayuki's squad had reached the church, and when the door opened, Misao welcomed her father, but he didn't want a useless magic user to address him as her father anymore. Looking around, she wondered why Ayano hadn't come to fight her, as she knew that she held a personal grudge toward him because Kazuma's attention was directed only towards her. Ayano's blood boiled hearing that, and she wanted to give her an whooping, but she didn't have the time for that, as Kazuma had arrived, and appeared from the moon like a god. Getting to the highest floor of a skyscraper, Ayano wondered if she could really stop Kazuma, and as he was moving towards Misao, she intervened and blasted him with a fireball that he blocked with a wind barrier. However, she kept attacking to push him back, but Kazuma dispelled his wind barrier to make her fall to the ground and caught her. Since she had attacked with the intention to kill him, he dropped her to the ground, and she got pissed that she barely lasted a few seconds, but felt amused when Kazuma told her he could also only last a few seconds. He knew that she was trying to buy time, so Ayano used Ren as a barrier to defend against him, and the brothers felt ashamed that she was the next head of the Kannagi family. However, she had no other option to buy time for the Yugami family to punish Misao, but Kazuma knew that it was the other way around, and they all heard a calamity scale blast going off in the distance. When they arrived at the church, all members of the Yugami family were dead, but Misao didn't feel any remorse, as her only family was her brother Takia that Kazuma murdered. Wanting to take her revenge, she threw a dark energy blast toward him, and when Kazuma blocked it, she fired a bunch of them at once, but it still didn't have any effect on him. And Ayano asked Misao if she really thought her lukewarm fire could kill someone as overpowered as Kazuma. However, Michael had assured her that she could defeat Kazuma with her power, and when he appeared, she begged him to guide her and show her the path to her revenge. But Michael knew that it was impossible for her to defeat Kazuma, as the maximum power a body could hold was decided from birth. So he was lying to her all that time, and wondered why humans were so dumb to believe anything. All this time, she thought that her horrendous actions were justified because it was her destiny. But when she realized that she murdered thousands of people in cold blood, she screamed in agony before going unconscious. Ren and Ayano tried to help her out, but the darkness barrier knocked them back, and Kazuma mentioned that it was the life energy she had collected from thousands of people. But the uncontrolled energy was leaking out of her unconscious body, and Michael was absorbing that darkness. It was his plan all along to acquire enough energy to defeat Kazuma, and revealed that he was the servant of a great master of stars and wisdom, who had killed Kazuma's friend in the past. When Kazuma shot a wind blade at him in anger, it was blocked by the darkness, and using Misao's body, the slime monster transformed into the dragon god. It destroyed the church to assert its dominance, and Michael dared them to attack the dragon, as Misao might die if they would defeat it. She was somewhere inside the dragon, and when they all dodged back to escape its darkness, Kazuma asked Ayano if she could summon the Kannagi purifying azure hellfire, but that technique was too advanced for her to use. Dodging its breath again, Ayano asked Kazuma if he still intended to save Misao, and summoned Inreha to charge towards the dragon god to destroy its face, but it regenerated instantly. When she burned its leg, the dragon god dropped to the ground, and as she was running to defeat it, the dragon launched slime tentacles at her, and Kazuma had to intervene to protect her. As they were flying in the air, Ren protected them from the follow-up attacks, and that dumb bitch complained why he saved her, as he had his heart fixed at Misao. However, Kazuma didn't want anyone to get harmed, and acquired the wind god's power so he could protect everyone. But he dropped to his knees, as he got gravely injured while protecting her useless overconfident ass. So Ayano advised him to stop the bleeding while she and Ren would hold back the dragon god. But Kazuma couldn't let them fight that monster by themselves, and hugging Ayano, he praised her for being a good woman, and asked her to buy time for him to summon the god's power. Meanwhile, Ren burned the dragon's mouth with his fire, and when Ayano came to assist him, he got worried seeing Kazuma's blood on her clothes. But she told him that he was fine, and was gathering the energy to defeat the dragon god. Gathering the wind spirits around him, Kazuma opened the gates of heaven to access the wind god's power, while Ren and Ayano tried their best to hold back the dragon god. Before long, Kazuma came to assist them, and used the wind god's power to enchant Inreha with purifying azure flame. When Ren saw her sword, he realized that it was the same flame as his father, and trusted them to finish the battle as he had no energy left. After telling her to prove herself useful for once in her life, Kazuma sent her in the air, and when she used the momentum to slice the dragon god in half with the blue flame, Michael couldn't believe that he was defeated even after he acquired the energy of thousands of souls. However, when he saw Kazuma's heavenly azure eyes, he realized that he had made a contract with the Spirit King of the Wind, and faded out of existence. As Misao was lying unconscious with no plot coverage, Kazuma woke her up, and telling her to get ready to go home, he covered her with his jacket. However, she wanted to die because the sins she had committed were unforgivable even if she spent her whole life atoning for them. But Kazuma told her that she was trying to find the easy way out by wishing for death to escape her guilt. He reminded her that she had to repay him first with her body for making him work overtime, and she happily agreed to do it at that instant. But that cock-blocker Ayano used horny purging flame to knock his desperate ass away. By the next winter season, Misao had become a nun as per Jugo's orders to atone for her sins, and when she asked Kazuma why he saved her, she reminded him of the time when a bunch of bullies were going to light him on fire, but Misao protected him by putting herself in harm's way. She didn't know that the kid she saved was Kazuma, and before they left, she promised to develop plot with him as a reward for putting her life on the right track. Some months later in Ayano's school at night, a girl felt something ominous from the dead cherry tree, and thought that she was just overthinking it. But a mysterious ball of life startled her and told her to go home, making her scream in terror. The rumors of a Hidodama terrorizing the Seiryo Academy had reached Jugo, but Ayano had never felt the presence of evil in her school, and it made him think that the issue wasn't that big. However, it was scary enough for normal humans to see a Hidodama floating in the air, so Ayano accepted Jugo's request to take care of the problem. But he didn't want her daughter to go alone, as they weren't sure of the real problem, and had appointed a personal bodyguard for her. At first, she thought that having a bodyguard would just slow her down, but when Kazuma appeared, she realized that he was her guard. He patted her on the back to mock her, and when she complained, Jugo suggested to give the case to Kirika. However, she knew that meat-hungry Blondie would end up developing plot with Kazuma instead of solving the case, so she had no other option but to work with him. Going to the school, Ayano wondered why he chose to accept such a boring case, but Jugo had offered him a big reward for working with her flatter than a surfboard daughter, and he couldn't pass such a good deal. Moving around, Ayano didn't sense anything abnormal, so she asked Kazuma if she felt something, but he refused to say anything, as his job was only to protect her. When the nearby bushes moved, she mindlessly charged a fireball, but Kazuma tripped her, and she realized that her friends Yukari and Nanes were behind them. They were members of the student council, and knew all about the chaos that the ball of light was causing, but Ayano still wanted them to go home, as they would put themselves in danger by investigating. However, they were sure that Kazuma would protect them, but he was only Ayano's bodyguard, and warned her that she would have to protect the two if they tagged along. Her friends thought that he wanted to focus all his attention on Ayano, and thought that she didn't want to get her late-night date interrupted. So to show them that there was nothing going on between them, she agreed to let them tag along, and they walked around the hallways of the school to search for the Hidodama. As the girls were talking, Kazuma sensed something, and fired a wind blast behind him, but it bounced back and revealed the girls' meat curtains. Thinking that he did that deliberately, Ayano attacked Kazuma, but the Hidodama flew past them at that instant, and the girls got excited to take a picture of it. Kazuma continued to be useless and refused to do anything except his job, so Ayano grabbed him by the collar in anger, and he smooched her face to push her back. As she was cursing the living shit out of him, the Hidodama ruined her already ugly face and told her to go back home. When Ayano threw a fireball at it, the ball of light escaped and almost burned herself to death with the residual flame, but Kazuma blew it off with wind. While they continued their search for that mischievous ball, Jugo was getting his old ass bones massaged by Ren, and asked if Kazuma and Ayano had a future together, but the way they fought all the time made Ren think that they hated each other's guts. At the same time, the ball of light used a wind gust to slam all the girls on the ground, as it wanted them to leave the school. And when Ayano chased it, the Hidodama threw a wet paper at her face, and she fell off the stairs to hug the ground. Yukari and Nanes helped her walk afterwards, but the Hidodama made them slip on the floor, and they all face-planted to slam into a wall. It continued to bully the living fuck out of them by using a dead body, and created a tap water tsunami to make them wet. So they dried their wet coats in an empty class using Ayano's fire. They struggled to understand what was happening, and Ayano was pissed at Kazuma for not telling them anything. But he had yet to find anything worthy to discuss, and asked Ayano to trust him. At that instant, Kazuma sensed something ominous from the backyard, so they went there to investigate it, and a bucket fell from the sky to Ayano's head. Unable to handle the sheer disrespect, Ayano wildly shot fireballs at the Hidodama, and started crying because having a bucket fall on her head was the biggest humiliation for her. So Kazuma politely asked the Hidodama to reveal itself, and when it refused, he slammed it around the whole backyard, and they realized that the ball of light was actually a mischievous fairy. She was bullying the girls just to have fun, and Ayano was about to slash her in half for that, but Kazuma stopped her and told her that she and the fairy had the mental age of a toddler. However, when she got angry, he offered to treat her to dinner, and Ayano demanded him to take her to a fancy restaurant. The fairy was there to make a dying old man's wish come true, so she went to the dead cherry tree, and all her friends revolved around it together to make it blossom for the last time. The girls were mesmerized by the pink petals of the cherry tree floating in the air, and when all the fairies disappeared in the sky, they all walked away from the school, as the case was solved. However, Kazuma knew about the presence of the fairies all along, and knew that they were mischievous little imbeciles who liked to make fun of humans. But he chose to remain silent, as he wanted them to bully Ayano, and she screamed at the sky to curse those fairies. One day in the school, Ren's friends Tatsuya and Kanon fought with each other to get him to spend time with them, and letting go of his hand to make her fall, Tatsuya ran with him. But Kanon broke his ribs to smash him against a locker and finally got Ren for herself. In the evening, the two walked together arm in arm while eating a sandwich, and Kanon asked him to go to a karaoke with her. He wondered why she wanted to spend time with a good-for-nothing like him, as if he were a girl. He would pick someone who was manly as his brother. Meanwhile, as Kazuma was shivering because of cold, Ayano used Inreha to defeat an apparition monster, and Kazuma clapped at her performance, while promising to clap her later. Since he was just freeloading while she did everything, she wondered why Jugo had hired him to be her bodyguard, and when they went outside, Ayano asked Kazuma to take her to dinner with the money he earned by doing nothing. He happily agreed, and that night, Ren was walking home after spending a long hectic day with Kanon, and saw a girl singing in a nearby park. He was in awe of how pretty she and her voice was, and hearing her sing, he was lost in the sight of her beauty, and the girl greeted him. Her name was Ayumi, and she wanted to play with Ren, but he gave her his jacket first before doing that since it was cold. At the same time, Kazuma and Ayano were eating dinner at a fancy restaurant, and she was savoring the taste of the food that tasted especially good since it was free. Ayano even ordered the most expensive stuff for her cheap ass, but when the fairy called Kazuma, he left Ayano by herself. Meanwhile, Ken and Ayumi were enjoying playing together, and after they introduced themselves to each other, she asked if he wanted to ride something else. Simultaneously, Kazuma met with the fairy named Tiana, and calling him a contractor, she asked him for a favor, and he squeezed her little body for openly talking about his hidden identity. However, she apologized and revealed that the chief of her clan had told her that he was a contractor, but her clan was in danger because its secret treasure was stolen by humans, and they would go extinct without it. When Kazuma asked about the payment, she got confused, as she thought that Kazuma was obligated to help them for free since they were spirits of the wind. But he yeeted her greedy ass away, and told her that he wouldn't do anything without money, so she offered to give him some gold and jewels. However, since their whole clan was in danger, he asked for half of their valuable items as payment. At the same time, while Ren and Ayumi were talking about their favorite things to do, a group of mercenaries knocked Ren away and captured Ayumi. They had a taser with them, but before they could use it on her, Ren kicked 2 of them in their faces. But the budget Keanu Reeves shot bullets at his feet to stop him. Ayumi wanted Ren to run away, but he used his powers to melt the gun, and when they realized that he was from the Kannagi clan, they mentioned that they belonged to the Tsuwabuki family. The mercenary warned Ren that he could cause a war between the 2 families, and told him that Ayumi was their property, but he refused to back down on his friend, and creating an arc of fire, he threatened to kill the guards unless they left. With no hope of winning against him, they ran away, and Ayumi asked if he did the right thing, but Ren thought that it would be pathetic if he couldn't even protect a girl. Out of nowhere, she requested him for a favor, while at the same time, Jugo and Ayano were informed by the Tsuwabuki family that Ren had robbed their treasure and escaped. They threatened to kill Ren if he didn't return Ayumi to them, and since there was no way for the 2 to contact him, Ayano decided that she would find him before the Tsuwabuki family. However, Jugo wanted her to get in touch with Kazuma, but Ayano didn't want to always depend on him for the hard stuff and went away. Meanwhile, Tiana showed the image of the secret treasure to Kazuma, and he told her that the Tsuwabuki family had stolen the treasure of her clan. In the Tsuwabuki state, Yuji informed Lady Mayumi that the guards failed to capture Ayumi because of a member of the Kannagi clan, and when she got angry, he bowed to beg her for forgiveness, and she stepped on him to remind him of his place. As an earthquake from Mount Fuji shook the ground, Kazuma used his wind powers to locate the treasure at the Tsuwabuki mansion, but he found no trace of it, and Tiana started to panic thinking that the chief would give her a death sentence if she didn't retrieve it. However, Kazuma told her to relax as he realized that they had lost the treasure and were looking for it. Inside the mansion, the guard asked Kiriha for more time to retrieve Ayumi, and she warned them to capture her before the grand ceremony if they valued their lives. Kazuma knew about the ceremony to stop the eruption of Mount Fuji, and revealed that once every 30 years on the first full moon of the year, the Tsuwabuki family silenced the mountain with their revolting ceremony, and they needed the fairy clan's treasure for some reason for it. At that instant, Kiriha had detected their presence and used her powers to force them inside the mansion, but Kazuma knew about their earth magic and defended himself against their attacks. They were all shocked to see Tiana there, so Kazuma acted like he belonged to the fairy clan and threatened to eliminate all of them by tomorrow evening if they didn't return their treasure. When they went away, Kazuma revealed that he was going to wait, as they would locate the treasure for them. He couldn't wait to destroy their whole disgusting family after retrieving it, and looking at his scary face, Tiana wondered why the Spirit King of the Wind would form a contract with someone like Kazuma. Meanwhile, Ren and Ayumi were at a train station because she wanted to see the sea one last time, and when he asked what she meant by the last time, she ignored him and hugged his arm. At the same time, Tiana kept irritating Kazuma with her constant yapping, so he smacked her in the head and warned her that someone might hear her loud as f*** voice. When Ren and Ayumi left the train station, they were startled by an earthquake, and knowing the meaning behind it made her sad. On their way, Ayumi drooled after seeing steamed buns, so Ren offered to buy her some, and while they were eating it, he offered her to join the Kannagi family, as he would be able to take care of her that way. But she denied, saying that she was part of the Tsuwabuki family, and it made Ren wonder why they treated her like shit, as she was an integral part of the grand ceremony. At the same time, Tiana still had no idea about what the grand ceremony was about, so Kazuma revealed that Mount Fuji erupted for the first time 300 years ago, and because of how devastating it was, the sheer energy that was released from the explosion manifested itself as a calamity-rank beast, and that creature's roars shook the foundation of the earth. So the Tsuwabuki family fought the beast, and with the blessing of the Spirit King of the Earth, they were able to seal it, but their leader had to sacrifice their life in the process. However, the seal they placed was only effective for 30 years, so the Tsuwabuki repaired the seal every time it got weak. But they murdered a family member every time by making the master exhaust all their life energy to seal the beast. The sacrifice was a noble tradition in the family, and when Ren realized that it was Ayumi's turn to be sacrificed next, he couldn't believe it, but she thought that someone would have to do it even if it wasn't her. He He had made her happy at the ending point of her life, as no one had ever been kind to her the way he was, and was content with the fact that she was going to be sacrificed, as she was going to save millions of people. However, she wanted to make some real memories before that happened, and revealed that someone else's memories were planted inside of her, so she wanted some memories that were her own in the end. Hearing this, Ren promised to protect her no matter what, and find a way to seal the beast where she wouldn't be sacrificed, so they could make more memories. For the time being, he took her to the ocean, and seeing how happy she was seeing it at night, Ren created an artificial sun to show how the ocean would look in daytime, and tears flowed from her eyes, as she was in awe of the view that she always wanted to see. At that instant, Mayumi and Yuji found them, and when Ren asked if the two of them were sisters, she got offended. She wanted him to give her property back, and reminded Ren that hostility towards her would cause a war amongst their families. So to stop that from happening, Ayumi went to her deliberately, and Mayumi slapped her in the face, while Yuji grabbed her by the hair and slammed her useless ugly face to the ground repeatedly before stepping on her face. Unable to see her in pain, Ren used a fire beam to get her off Ayumi, and told them that he would protect her with his life, so Mayumi ordered Yuji to end the life of that disgusting brat. Gathering the earth spirits, he created spikes from the ground to end him in an instant, and Ren couldn't do anything except to run away from his attacks. There was no way he could defeat him if he continued to stay on the ground, so he enveloped himself in hellfire, and Yuji's attack no longer worked on him, as he had turned the sand beneath into magma. Mocking Yuji for how weak he was, he blasted him with fire, and as he hugged the ground, Ren told Mayumi to let Ayumi go if she wanted to live. But Yuji was still alive, and Mayumi revealed that Ayumi wasn't even a human. She was Mayumi's clone, and even though she looked older, it had only been a month since she was created using Mayumi's memories. However, Ren didn't believe her, but when Ayumi herself admitted that she was made to sacrifice her life to be the master of the ceremony, he dropped to his knees in disbelief, and Mayumi revealed that it wouldn't have made a difference even if he saved her, as she would die in a month anyways. At that instant, Ayano arrived to see Ren on his knees, and as she ran towards him, Mayumi told Detective Kirika to tell Jugo that she had recovered their stolen property, and had no intention of holding them accountable for the actions of a stupid fuckface. When they went away, Kazuma woke up, and when they saw Ayumi getting out of the vehicle, Tiana revealed that the fairy's secret treasure was inside of her. She wanted her to execute the mission, and chop that dumbass girl into pieces to retrieve the secret treasure. But he wanted to go home, as he thought that it would be a lot more fun if he took the treasure right at the moment of the ceremony. Meanwhile, Kuraha praised Yuji for retrieving Ayumi, and when he went away, she congratulated Mayumi that she wouldn't have to be sacrificed anymore. Afterward, she took the two girls somewhere, and Yuji saw them, so he asked Kuraha about Mayumi's location since she never came back to her room. Impressed by his loyalty, she decided to let Yuji see her, and took him to the ancient Tsuwabuki sanctuary where he saw Mayumi frozen inside a crystal. He got angry seeing her there, but Kuraha revealed that Ayumi didn't have enough energy for the ceremony, since she escaped before they could make final adjustments to her, so she decided to use Mayumi to make up the power that she would be unable to provide. However, she assured Yuji that she wouldn't die, as she was just lending her power. But since there was a risk that Kazuma might infiltrate to disturb their ceremony, she offered to give Yuji the power to defend her. Meanwhile, Jugo was informed that Ren had been depressed since he came back, and when Ayano came, he told her that the Tsuwabuki clan's ceremony was of no concern to them, and warned her not to do anything stupid. At the same time, Kuraha told her sealed father that all the obstacles that would disturb the ceremony were taken care of, and that included him since he knew that she was going to use the ceremony for her ambition. He knew that form a long time ago, and had tried to kill her, but when he failed, she sealed him in an earth prison, and mocked him for not being able to do anything while she would end the Tsuwabuki clan. In the evening, Ayano saw Ren sitting by a river all depressed, and when he didn't pay her any attention, she pushed him into it. She felt disappointed that he had abandoned Ayumi, and didn't do anything while she was being taken away. But Ren knew the importance of sealing that beast, and told her that she was made as a clone to do exactly that. However, Ayano didn't care if she was human or not, as the only thing that mattered was he was her friend, and Ren wondered if rescuing her was the right thing to do, as it would release the beast hidden beneath Mount Fuji. But he decided that he would at least go see her again, and apologize to Ayumi, so Ren agreed to take her to the hideout of the Tsuwabuki family, but warned him not to cause any commotion. At night, Ayumi was brought by the guards to the sanctuary to perform her role as the master of the ceremony, and Kuraha pitied her miserable fate, but there wasn't anything she could do. At that instant, a guard informed her that they had intruders, as Ayano had burned a few of the guards who attacked her out of nowhere. Jumping away from the earth spikes, Ren tried to tell the guards that he came just to see Ayumi for the last time. But they couldn't trust his words, so Ayano blasted their asses to a crisp, and they continued moving toward the mansion. However, the stone golem god stopped them, and Ayano lit it on fire with a fireball, but it had no effect on the golem. The golem's earthen bullets were parried by Ayano, and she told Ren to continue ahead while she would hold back the golem. But it grabbed him, and Ayano tried cutting its hand, but she just bounced back and got kicked into a wall. The golem warned Ayano not to move, else he would break all the bones in Ren's body, and hearing its voice, Ren realized that the golem was actually Yuri. Since there was a risk that interruptions during the ceremony would put Mayumi's life in danger, Kiraha gave him the powers of the golem to protect her, and he didn't care about his life as long as Mayumi was safe. Ren respected his determination, but he knew that there was something wrong with sacrificing completely for someone else without receiving anything in return. Pissed by what he said, Yuri was about to slam him on the ground, but his arm was cut down by a wind blade, and Kazuma and Tiana arrived to assist the two. He told them not to let their guard down as the golem was still alive, and when it regenerated its arms, Ren informed Kazuma that the golem used to be a human, but he sacrificed his body to protect Mayumi. It was something that the Tsuwabuki family would do, as they believed that they needed to sacrifice something to protect someone, and that way of thinking made Kazuma sick. But Mayumi loved Yuri since she was a teenager, and confessed her love for him since she would eventually be sacrificed for the ceremony. She requested Yuri to capture her if she would ever try to escape, and from that moment, he swore loyalty to her, and was ready to sacrifice his own life for her sake. So he had no intention to let the three get close to the mansion, but before they fought him, Ren wanted to know if Kazuma would die to protect him. But he was the type to find a way where both of them would survive. Hearing that, Ren went to Yuri to tell him that his family was stuck on the notion of sacrificing themselves for others' sake. But according to Ren, that was a wrong way of thinking, as finding a way where everyone would be alive and happy was better. However, the Tsuwabuki family could never escape their fate because of the beast hidden in the mountain, and Ren realized that they needed to defeat that monster in order to break the generational norms. When Yuri launched a sand tsunami towards it, Ren pierced it with fire to counter-attack him, and used his fire to dispel the stone golem magic around him. Ayano was shocked seeing it, as Enreha attacks didn't even put a scratch on Yuri. But Ren had used a high-level technique to purify the agents that transformed him into the golem. Since Ren believed that their real enemy was the beast, he wanted Kazuma and Ayano to fight it instead. But a flying boulder from Kiraha stopped them in their tracks, and Ayano tried to burn her to ashes, but her attack completely failed. She called Yuri pathetic for failing even when she gave him so much power, and hearing that, Kazuma realized that Kiraha used a gravity-controlling technique, and it belonged to the beast. Kiraha praised him for finding out her truth, and told everyone that she fused Yuri with a fraction of the beast's power to transform him into a golem. Before they fought her, Kazuma sent Ren flying towards the mansion, and sent him right into the secret cave. Ayumi was happy to see him, and the guards asked who he was, but he ignored them, and apologized to her for not doing anything while Mayumi took her away. Refusing to let anyone get sacrificed, he promised to rescue both Ayumi and Mayumi, and when the guards got ready to stop him, he revealed that he had defeated Yuri before they came to them, and the guards ran away afterward to save their asses. He told Ayumi that everyone would be happy if they would destroy the beast, and convinced her that there had to be some other path where she would survive. He wanted to pursue that path, but Ayumi was fated to die even if there was no ceremony. However, even if that was the case, Ren wanted her to spend the rest of her life living it to the fullest. Hearing that, she started to cry, and finally expressed her desire to live a long, happy life with him. As they were holding hands, Kazuma arrived after making Ayano fight Kiraha by herself, and asked if he was ready to take down the beast. Meanwhile, Ayano's fire attack was eaten by Kiraha's gravity ball, and after she was pushed back, the Big Milker's goth mommy told her that even the Kanagi clan was no match for the beast's power, and revealed that she needed true power because she was born without the ability to perform earth magic. In the cave, Ren asked Kazuma to rescue Mayumi, so he used wind blades to cut open the crystal pillar. But because of that, the whole cave started to crumble, and their exit route got blocked. So Kazuma blew open a hole toward the surface, and carried everyone outside to see Ayano still fighting Kiraha. At that instant, he heard the leader of the clan begging for help, and he requested Kazuma to stop his daughter. At the same time, Ayano kept defending herself against Kiraha's gravity attacks, and was exhausted because of it. When Kazuma appeared, she tried to kick him in anger, but he blocked her and saw her plot. Suddenly, Kazuma turned back to cut Kuraha's attack in half and told her that she couldn't perform the ceremony anymore, but she was determined to make it possible in any way. However, Kazuma knew that her objective was to acquire the beast's entire power, and she realized that her father must have told him everything before he died. There was no way a mere human like her could accumulate all of the beast's power, so she was conducting the ceremony to reduce its strength to the point where she would be able to absorb it. When Kazuma called her a failure in a family of magic users, Kuraha told him that he had no idea how hard her life was, as she couldn't perform earth magic. She was just like Kazuma in that case, but he didn't care about that, and mentioning that Yuri turned into a golem when he received the beast's power, he asked why she was still normal. The only possibility was that the beast had given her a part of its power when she was born, and made her think that she was using that beast. But it was her who was getting used by the monster. It made her seek the power of the beast and execute the grand ceremony by sealing her talent as an earth magic user. But she couldn't bring himself to accept the fact that she was just a tool for that abhorrent creature, and remembered all the isolation and humiliation she faced throughout her childhood because of the beast that was locked away in the darkness of the earth. Hearing her say that, Kazuma asked if the beast was sealed in the crystal pillar in the underground cave. And since it was the case, Ayano cursed his useless dumbass. At that instant, magma erupted from the hole he had created, and as Kuraha collapsed to the ground in pain, the beast Zenon rose from amidst the magma and roared to assert its dominance. It took part of its power back from Kuraha, and as everyone rushed towards Zenon, Ayumi stopped Ren as she was worried about him, but he assured her that he would come back alive. While he burned the Calamity rank monster's mouth, Kazuma threw his wind slashes at it, and Ayano tried to cut its head with Enreha, but none of their attacks worked against it, and Kazuma carried her to safety. Zenon tried to crush them with gravity magic, but he flew away to protect Ayano, and when Kuraha woke up, she was able to use earth magic now. As the rest continued to attack Zenon in vain, Kazuma realized that the creature had turned its powers into a barrier around it, so Ayano asked him to use the power of the Spirit King of the Wind. But he could only use it for 5 minutes, and wanted to make it count. At that instant, Kuraha riddled Zenon with a hail of earth harpoons, and demanded its anger to return the time and life that the creature used for its selfishness. When she got blasted away, Ayumi started crying, and saw Ren helplessly trying to stop the demon. But when he was launched in the air, Kazuma had to rescue him as well. She realized that she had no option left but to conduct the ceremony, and as the demon was getting out completely, Ayumi used her power to weaken the beast. Ren didn't want her to do that, as her body would collapse, but Kazuma told him that she already knew that, and was fighting in order to spend her life with him. He decided that they needed to kill Zenon instantly, so he requested the two to assist him, and Kazuma opened the gates of heaven to acquire God's power. He used a wind hurricane to launch Zenon in the air, while Ren and Ayano worked together to destroy its protective shell, and allowed Kazuma to defeat it with a wind tornado. They had defeated the creature, but Ayumi had collapsed after overexerting her powers, and Ren rushed towards her. When Ayano was about to go after him, Kazuma stopped her, and revealed that Ayumi wasn't actually a clone. She was a real human child, but the leader of the Tsuwabuki clan used the fairy's treasure egg to force her growth, so she could sacrifice herself in place of Mayumi. She was going to die soon, but Kazuma couldn't do anything to prevent that, and apologized to Ayano for being too weak to protect everyone. However, Ayumi wasn't sad about her death, and asked Ren not to pity her, as although her time with him was little, she loved every moment of it. Even Mayumi realized how badly her whole clan treated her, and seeing her turn into dust, Ren started to cry. But this was the last time she was seeing his face, and didn't want it to be a crying face, so she requested him to smile. And when Ren finally confessed her love for her, she did the same in return, and turned into dust. The fairy's egg dropped from her body, and distraught about her death, Ren started to cry a river, and screamed as loudly as he could. The following day, he sat by the shore in her memory, and Kazuma told him that she might have been a doll, but he made her a living person. However, Ren always knew that she had a heart, and when Ayano came, the two walked toward her, and Ren remembered all the loving memories he made with Ayumi. A few days later in school, Ayano was daydreaming about the sight of Kazuma's Excalibur, so the teacher called her out. Afterward in the playground, Yukari teased her about her upcoming date with Kazuma, but Ayano was the biggest tsundere in the whole world, and refused to accept that she was going on a date or if she had any feelings for him. According to her, she just wanted to receive compensation for fighting with Kiraha by herself, and wanted to make Kazuma buy her lavish food at a super expensive restaurant. But her friends realized that the dumb bitch was just talking about her date in a weird way. That night, she got all dressed up to eat meat before eating his meat later on, and while the two went inside the restaurant, Ren massaged Jugo's old ass bones. He had seen Ayano nicely dressed up earlier, and wanted to know where she was going, so Jugo revealed that he needed Kazuma for the future of his family, and for that, he needed those two horny-filled teenagers to develop plot with each other. But no matter how many opportunities he would create for them, the two still hadn't made any progress, and Jugo wondered how long it would take them to get together. In the restaurant, Kazuma noticed an evil spirit, and when Ayano complimented his suit, he asked if she had fallen in love with him all over again, and it pissed her off. The waiter brought them a vintage vine to end their date on a high note, and as Kazuma asked Ayano if she wanted to drink it, a bunch of goons held everyone in the hotel hostage and stole the valuable items and money from them. However, Kazuma and Ayano kept eating their food, so the leader of the goons asked if they hadn't heard his orders. So Kazuma warned him that the redhead hottie in front of him was pissed. At that instant, his sword was melted by flame from a spirit beast, and the creature rained fireballs at the goons to make them flee. It was the servant of a woman named Catherine McDonald, who was blessed by the Booba god with huge jiggly wigglies, and since Ayano didn't know her famous family, Kazuma revealed that the McDonald family was the most respected fire magic users family in America. They used high-level techniques to unify a large number of spirits into a singular body, and made it their servant to do their work. However, Ayano thought that they combined the spirits because they couldn't control more than one at a time. But Catherine refused to listen to any criticism from someone who didn't do anything to stop the goons. She had specifically made a visit to Japan to prove that her family had the most powerful fire magic, and wanted Ayano to hand over Inreya to her. She thought that Ayano wouldn't put up a fight since she didn't stand up against the goons, but she couldn't just let a disgusting blondie like her ridicule her family, and the two decided to have a duel to find out who was the strongest. When Ayano summoned Inreya, Catherine enveloped herself in flames and summoned her strongest angel spirit Metatron. Sensing the power of that angel, Ayano could tell that thousands of spirits must have been bundled inside it, but she was sure that no fire attack could work against her. However, Metatron's fire was special that could even burn the members of the Kenagi clan, and it launched fire bullets at her before coming to attack Ayano with its sword from behind. When she got startled by its weird movement, Kazuma advised her not to think of it as a normal creature, and she managed to slice it in half. She thought that she had won, but when Metatron pushed her back with a strike, she realized that the angel wouldn't die from a normal slash because of the thousands of spirits inside of it, and asked Kazuma to help her defeat it. But he had left the restaurant, and Metatron smacked Ayano through a wall. Catherine wanted her to accept her defeat, but she refused to go down without a fight, and at the same time, Jugo received a call from Kirika, who told him that his dumb daughter was fighting inside a building that was possessed by an evil spirit. That spirit didn't have the power to do anything directly, but it was amping up the negative emotions of humans, and made those goons attack the people at the restaurant earlier. Kazuma had found that evil spirit, but before he could finish it off, it was purged from Inreya's flames while she was chasing Metatron, and she was caught off guard by his attack from behind. Their fight shook the foundations of the building, and before long, Ayano was exhausted, so Kazuma gave her a tip, and told her that she was burning the wrong thing. As she sliced Metatron in half once again, she saw that Catherine was barely hanging in there just like her, and gave a thought to the advice that Kazuma gave her. Realizing how she purged the evil spirit earlier, she started gathering fire spirits around her, and when Metatron rushed at him, it got trapped in her flames, and Ayano used her fire to purify the spirits inside it. However, the spirits inside Metatron exploded in that instant, and Kazuma had to carry her outside to safety. But Catherine and her servant were still alive. However, she decided to call their battle a draw for the time being, and when Ayano complained that she had won, she vowed to defeat her decisively next time, and went away. Ayano wanted to fight her right there, but Kazuma told her to calm her tits, as the building they were fighting it was about to collapse, and wanted her to wipe the top floor of the building before it brought that whole building down. So she used Inreya's fire to do the job, and could barely walk from exhaustion afterward. Since her hungry ass still wanted more food, they decided to go to a ramen stall, and she complained about it, but when she gave it a try, she liked that taste. Kazuma had grabbed the wine bottle amidst all that chaos, and as he was pouring it into the glass, a splash hit Ayano's face, and that disgusting runt cleaned it with his tongue. Her floodgates opened in less than a second even though she was startled by his action. And at the same time, Jugo received a call to pay for all the damage they did to that building. The following day, Metatron chased an evil spirit through a crowded area, and with a slash of its sword, it eliminated the spirit. And the people couldn't believe what they just saw, so Catherine told them not to worry as she was there to protect them. The news of that incident had reached Kirika, who summoned Kazuma to get his help in finding the mysterious fire magic user, and told him that the suspect was a blondie with huge cushioning. To their surprise, Catherine was right in front of their eyes bullying a waiter who got her order wrong. And Kazuma revealed that she was the woman that Kirika was looking for. She told the two that she was just training to defeat Ayano, and when Kirika learned that she wanted to get her sword, she couldn't help but laugh, as the only sword she was getting was Kazuma's. He didn't think that Catherine had the power to defeat Ayano, and suggested her to improve her spirit beast instead of wasting her time on small fries. But Catherine didn't want to listen to a powerless wind magic user, and asked him to apologize to her on his knees. However, Kazuma was notorious for never apologizing to anyone, so she challenged him to a duel, and the two went to an empty ground nearby. She made Metatron rush at him, but Kazuma slashed it out of existence in a matter of seconds, making Catherine wonder who he was. Kazuma had shown her the difference between their power, and told her that she wouldn't defeat Ayano with her current way of fighting, as she overestimated the power of her spirit and didn't know what to do once it was defeated. Ayano could just purify Metatron with a single move, and even though Catherine was pissed, she couldn't help but agree with Kazuma. However, she wondered why he was telling her all that, as he was supposed to be on her side. But Cosmo was just hired for money, so Catherine asked if he was interested in working for her. The following day at McDonald's, Ayano heard that Kazuma was walking around with a big plotted girl, and Yukari mentioned that she looked perfect with him. However, since Ayano never accepted that she liked Kazuma, she teased him that it didn't matter who he was going out with. At that instant, Kazuma arrived there, and before Ayano could ask him about the girl, he gave her a challenge to a duel from Catherine. She realized that the girl he was going out with was Catherine, but Kazuma was just training her every day, and left after refusing to elaborate further. In the evening, he helped Catherine practice her new spell to defeat Ayano, and mentioned that it had a better chance to defeat her than Metatron. They both had the same fighting style, but since Ayano could just burn Metatron out of existence, Kazuma wanted Catherine to just practice the things he taught her by herself, as he wanted to go home and eat. However, she chased her, but got tripped by a rock to land on his manly chest, and hearing his heartbeat, she abruptly got back, and realized that she was in love with him. That night, Ayano beat a pillow senseless with Kazuma's face on it, and the day before the duel, she ate desserts like a madman to cope with the fact that Kazuma didn't care about her, and he later arrived there with Catherine beside him. She didn't expect to see Ayano there, and when she told her to be ready for her defeat tomorrow, Ayano asked Kazuma if he brought her there just to mock her, but they just came there to celebrate the completion of her training. Hugging Kazuma's arm, Catherine told Ayano to always be 10 meters away from her future horny disabling machine, and the situation heated between the two until Kazuma stopped them. If Catherine won, she would take Kazuma to America with her, and Ayano didn't want that to happen. But Kazuma was just a disgusting freelancer who would go anywhere as long as it paid him well. Ayano was sad about that, and as she ran away, her friends followed her, and Kazuma told Catherine to do her best tomorrow, as Ayano was pissed beyond oblivion. In the meantime, Ayano quietly walked by herself while Yukari and Nanis followed her, and once she stopped, she told her friends that she would make Kazuma stay in Japan no matter what, as she wanted him to pay for her meals forever and planned to suck him dry. Empty his wallet. The following day, they went to the place where Kazuma fought Genma, and when Kazuma began their fight, Ayano summoned in Reiha while Catherine brought forth her guardian. As the two rushed toward each other, Ayano used Kanagi Flame to purify Metatron, and thought that she had won the fight easily. But Catherine still had a smile on her face. She jumped to wipe out that smirk, but fire blasts from the sky brought her down to her knees, and she got surrounded by wisp spirits. Kazuma had come up with that idea to defeat Ayano, and as the wisps rained fire bullets at her, she dodged to escape them, but eventually got hit by one. Kazuma knew that she tried to one-hit kill all her opponents, so she wanted to use that weakness against her, and her friends called him a jerk for moving to the enemy's side. However, he wanted her to realize her weakness, but while running away from the attacks, Ayano got overwhelmed by the wisps and collapsed to the ground. With the fight over, Catherine wanted her to accept his defeat, and couldn't wait to take Kazuma to America and have her sugar daddy meet her real daddy. However, Ayano couldn't let Catherine take her personal pleasure machine away, and jumped around to take out the wisp spirits in an instant. With the wisps etched in her sword, she gathered the fire spirits to blast the fuck out of that blonde bitch and won the fight. However, she got up once again, but she had no plans to fight her anymore and accepted her defeat honorably. The two shook hands with each other, and Yukari and Nanace realized that Kazuma had set the battle in order to improve Ayano. But just like her, he wasn't honest with his feelings and didn't accept that he did all that for her. Since she won, Ayano wanted Kazuma to treat her to dinner, but Catherine stopped her, as she had only given up on taking Kazuma to America and didn't say anything about not going after him. Some days later, a mysterious website asked a gamer if he wanted power, and in the school, Nanace ran to vault over a pole, and a disgusting scum named Utsumi took her pictures. All the girls were in awe of how athletic she was, and that pathetic continued taking inappropriate pictures of girls while they were playing tennis. So Nanace hit a bullseye with a football on his face, and crushed his camera afterward. She hated scums like him, and Utsumi tried to make an excuse that he was just taking pictures of the yearbook. But the girls knew that he was taking their plot-filled pictures, and knocked his bag to see pictures of their dressing room. It was filled with hidden cameras that Utsumi had secretly placed, and they used brooms to beat the living shit out of him. However, after just a little while, Nanace told the girls to stop, as she thought that he must have learned his lesson. But that four-eyed fuckface took her generosity for granted, and thought that she appreciated his art and wanted him to only take pictures of her. Nanace was disgusted by that hopeless idiot, and her friend used a metal baseball bat to teach him a proper lesson. In the city, Kazuma and Ayano were approached by a thug, and that budget Hulk from Wish.com pumped his muscles to scare them. But the two of them were unfazed and ignored him to argue with each other. When the man tried to attack them, Kazuma slammed him against a car, but he got up, so Kazuma made Ayano hold his drink. And after dodging the man's attack, he broke his leg before knocking him out with a chop. With his defeat, the man transformed back into his usual self, and Kazuma thought about calling Kirika to inform her about the incident. But Ayano felt jealous of the meat-hungry woman, and didn't want to see her. However, when Kazuma made fun of her, she went away in anger and saw Utsumi mumbling about teaching those bitches a lesson. The following day in school, she was informed about what the girls did to him, and they were glad that Ayano wasn't there, as she would have probably chopped off his baby-making machine to suppress his horny-filled tendencies. Despite the atrocities he was committing, Utsumi was only suspended for 3 days, as it was his first offense. But the girls didn't think that the punishment was enough. Nanace's friend Sujino, who hit Utsumi with the baseball bat, had been in a coma with a fever since last night, and Yukari jokingly said that Utsumi must have put a curse on her. She was struggling to breathe in the hospital, and dreamt about the moment when Utsumi got the power from the online website, and she got hit by a car. That fuckface kept hunting all the other girls who gave him a beating. And the following day, Nanace overheard some boys talking that Utsumi had put a curse on the girls who banded together against him. But when they saw that Nanace was alright, they wondered if he was saving her as the main dish. Meanwhile, Yukari informed Ayano that every girl involved with the punishment was suffering from an illness, or got into an accident, so she was worried about Nanace, but Ayano assured her that nothing would happen to her. After 3 days had passed, Utsumi arrived at the school once again and tried to talk to Nanace. But when a guy tried to stop him, he pushed him back and told everyone that he was a noble chosen one that was given a superpower. Although she was ignoring him at first, Nanace eventually agreed to talk to that scum. And when the two went outside, Utsumi tried to scare Nanace with a budget Kamehameha, but missed her entirely. Nanace wasn't impressed by his showboating, but Utsumi told her that it was only a glimpse of his true power, as his real power was to kill with curses, and wanted Nanace to become his slave and beg for forgiveness if she wanted to live. But Nanace was having none of his shit, as he was still a useless disappointment even if he got his powers. Feeling disrespected by her comments, Utsumi unleashed all the power inside of him, and charged another energy ball, but Nanace stopped him with a taser and used it once again to knock him unconscious. The girls had planned this all along, as the taser originally belonged to Yukari, but she refused to tell them how she got her hands on it, and Kirika arrived soon after to apprehend Utsumi. Yukari gave her an investigation report later on, making Kirika wish that she worked for her, and she informed the girls that there had been a sudden outbreak of people with superpowers in the city. The budget Hulk that Ayano ran into was also one of them, and Kirika revealed that they would be easy to handle for them. But they were attacking normal humans, and conducting street fights among themselves. Yukari had heard about those street fights online, and talked about a video game that granted them power and made them kill others to level up, so Kirika asked her to forward the web address to her. Since there were too many of those incidents and too few people to handle them, Kirika asked the two for help with the investigation. And while Yukari was eager to help, Ayano wasn't, so she forced her to join. However, when Ayano learned that Kazuma was also helping her out by working with a rookie, she asked if the rookie was pretty. But Kirika told her that it was a man. But Ayano knew that if there's a hole there's a way, and in the evening, that rookie was cornered by a hellhound and its master in an alleyway. While Kazuma was just standing nearby observing everything, the man talked about going to the Pandemonium to upgrade his class to a higher one, and hearing him use video game terms made Kazuma wonder about who the real culprits were. When the hellhound lunged at the rookie, he shot its face, and although it was pushed back, it was still unharmed, so Kazuma had to chop it up into pieces and defeat his master. The rookie started crying, asking God why he had to be a part of the special unit, so Kazuma wanted him to go rest. But at that instant, he saw the love of his past life named Tsui Ling, and was stunned seeing her. When she ran, Kazuma ran after her, and the hellhound's master used the opportunity to flee. While at the same time, Kazuma lost track of Tsui Ling. His brother in the meantime was chilling around with Kanon, but Tatsuya barged in to take him for himself, and as the two of them were fighting, a boy grabbed Kanon and reminded her that she was supposed to do a karaoke with her. However, Kanon declined him, but Tatsuya asked her to go so she would leave him and Ren alone, and she broke his foot before telling the boy that she had no intentions of going out with him. But that disgusting ass face thought that she was just playing hard to get, and Ren eventually stepped because he wouldn't stop bothering her. However, when the boy said he had nothing going his way except for his good looks, both Kanon and Tatsuya worked together to slam him on the ground, as they couldn't let anyone diss their friends. Getting up, the boy was about to punch Kanon, so Ren held him up against a wall, and while his friends were impressed by him, the boy threatened to make his big brother kill them, and revealed that he had superpowers. Kanon and Tatsuya laughed at him, but he knew that he was saying the truth, and vowed to teach them all a lesson. Meanwhile, Ayano and her friends were eating a shitload of desserts at a bakery, and she wondered why Yukari wasn't scared of investigating people with magic and abnormal abilities. However, Yukari told Ayano that she also had abnormal abilities, so she told the two that they didn't have to hang out around her if they didn't want to. But her friends loved her a lot, and knew that she used her powers for good. That night as she was going home, she saw a magic user in a maid outfit getting chased by Catherine, and they fought in the city with no care for the civilians. As the maid was introducing herself to Catherine, Ayano got angry at her, as she thought that she was the source of the recent incidents. But Kirika had recruited her as well, and she even had a police badge to prove that. While Catherine was laughing because of her superiority, Ayano wondered why Kirika had to hire that dumb bitch, and at that instant, the maid threw magic stars at them that were burned by Metatorn's and Ayano's fire. Catherine wanted to know how she got her powers, so the maid mentioned the Pandemonium, and charged up her ultimate attack, but Ayano purified her magic, while Metatron burned her to a crisp. With her job done, Catherine informed Kirika that the girl was in her custody, and refused to tell Ayano anything about it before taking her away for interrogation. While Kazuma was standing on top of a tall building, he finally decided to attend Kirika's call, and she asked where he was, but he wasn't interested one bit in talking to her, as seeing the love of her past had shaken him up from the inside. Meanwhile, some goons took Ren and her friends to an alleyway, and the boy they beat earlier was there with his brother, who was a fire magic user, and Takashi asked him to kill them off. Summoning flame at his hands, he tried to burn everyone alive, but Ren effortlessly blocked his attack, and scolded him for breaking the code of magic users by attacking civilians. But the man didn't know anything about that, as he was also a player of the game. When he tried to defeat Ren with a phoenix, he dispelled his attack with flame serpents, and saw that the man was possessed by a spirit. Takashi was shocked that his brother was being pushed back, and he cursed Vesalius for giving someone else the same fire attribute power as him, while Ren wondered if Vesalius had made the spirit possess him. To prove that he was the fire master, the man unleashed all the fire inside of him, but Ren blocked it with his hand, and used a flame of purification to eliminate the spirit in his body. At first, he was surprised that the attack did no damage to him, but when he tried to attack again, his fire refused to come out, and Ren informed him that he had erased his flame. With that, all of his friends fled for their lives, and Tatsuya and Kanon couldn't help but smile at how awesome Ren was. Meanwhile, the maid informed Kirika that she got her powers from a website called Pandemonium, and her computer's screen turned white to make her unconscious. She got the powers when she woke up the next day, and Kirika and Izumi learned that all of those processes were a part of the spirit summoning ceremony that granted the users their power. Just like the maid, the fire magic user had obtained his power from the website. But no matter how hard they tried afterward, no one could ever enter the Pandemonium twice. But the only certain thing was that they received experience points to level up, and were informed of them by emails. Once he accumulated enough experience points, the man went to the Pandemonium to meet Vesalius, and was given promotion to a higher class. However, he didn't know anything about where the Pandemonium was except for the fact that it was between two towers, so Ren looked around and found the towers he was talking about. So they went inside to see that there was nothing between the two towers, but Ren could sense that something was wrong, and used a fireball to reveal the distortion in space. Once he confirmed the Pandemonium's existence, he tried to get away, but Vesalius kidnapped him, and Kanon and Tatsuya realized that he wasn't behind them anymore. Meanwhile, Kazuma went to a meeting at the Kannagi State, where Kirika informed Jugo and Genma that random teenagers were given superpowers through spirits, and even obtained testimonies from multiple people that she had arrested. None of them knew that their power belonged to the spirit, and if they continued using it, they would be eaten up from the inside. So Kirika wanted to ask for the Kannagi family's help, but Kazuma didn't have anything in his mind except Sui Ling. However, he remembered that her eyes were off a different color, and left the meeting to give whoever decided to mess with him a beating. As Ren chased Kazuma to stop him, he received a call from Kanon, who told her that Ren had disappeared, so they all rushed to meet her and Tatsuya. Ayano assured the two that they would rescue him, and while the rookie took them away, Kazuma sensed a spatial distortion over the upper part of the building. Since they had even obstructed Kazuma's view, Kirika thought that they must be strong, but he went there all by himself, and used a wind slash to open a hole into the barrier, and disappeared inside it. With him gone, Kirika gave an order to get everyone in the building evacuated, as she knew that Kazuma wouldn't hold back against people who kidnapped Ren. Getting inside the Pandemonium, Kazuma entered a room, while Ayano and Kirika used the lift to get to the spatial distortion area. They could barely stand there because of the incredible wind speed, and Ayano offered to destroy the whole spatial barrier. But Kirika couldn't afford to reveal its existence to the general public, and used her powers to open a gate. Opening a huge door, they entered into a big hall, and slowly progressed through it until Lapis came in front of them. Learning that she was Vesalius's servant, Ayano asked her to take them to her master, but she declined and asked them to leave if they didn't want to get eliminated. She had a great sword bigger than her body to stop any unwanted intrusion into the Pandemonium, but Ayano summoned Enreha to battle against her, and when she blocked Lapis's attack, she was shocked by the strength behind it. A normal weapon would have crumbled to dust by Enreha's fire, but Lapis's sword was special, and she could swing it like it was a feather. Meanwhile, Kazuma was stuck in a distorted space of a dimensional maze, and couldn't even rip it out of existence, as it would risk the lives of everyone in the building. At the same time, Ren was in a dark room, and used fire to illuminate his surroundings, but Vesalius turned all the lights on for him, and after welcoming him in the Pandemonium, he asked Ren if he wanted to upgrade his class, but he denied, and asked him to stop playing with the lives of humans, but Vesalius was giving the humans power for an experiment. Meanwhile, Ayano struggled to hold herself against Lapis, and tried to burn her with a fireball, but her swords absorbed the fire, and she launched it right back at her before jumping in the air to try to squash her. However, she jumped back, and complained that Kirika wasn't helping her out, but she wasn't overpowered like Kazuma, and couldn't do anything to stop Lapis. Ren wanted to know what his experiment was about, but Vesalius told him that he didn't have the time to focus on others, as Kazuma and Ayano were in battles of their own to rescue him. Her most faithful servant, who was trained to handle magic users, was overwhelming the direct descendant of the Kannagi family, and Kazuma was stuck in a dimensional maze that he couldn't get out of. However, Kazuma used Vesalius's magic to figure out his location, and he turned it off instantly. But Kazuma had already entered his hall, and hugged his little brother. Looking at him, Kazuma realized that the man in front of him was Rhodes, and revealed that he had spared his life in the past and even defeated his master. However, Vesalius advised Kazuma not to act cocky, as the only reason he was alive was because he never felt it worthy to give him attention, and Kazuma just laughed at his yapping ass. He wanted to know if Vesalius had created the Tsui Ling look-alike, while at the same time, Ayano used a huge fire blast at Lapis, and exploded it to get inside the hall. When Kazuma looked at her, he was frozen in place out of shock, as Lapis looked exactly like Tsui Ling. Set your heart ablaze, go beyond your limits, and watch this next video.